I'm on tour. You can go to ilanaglazer.com for tickets. I'm going to a lot of fucking cities in Europe as well. So come see me. And then, yeah, come on in. It's open. Hello. Welcome to It's Open with Ilana Glazer. Oh my goodness. My goodness. I am so heartened and enlivened, and my heart is full after this conversation that I just had with a young progressive leader named Elise Joshi. Elise Joshi started as a content creator on TikTok, making messaging for the progressive movement. And then she realized there was a whole progressive movement that would love to take her in and prop her up as one of its very important leaders. She went on to executive direct Gen Z for Change, a nonprofit organization making progressive messaging for young people, by young people. And now she works with and at More Perfect Union, which is a news source that I turn to, an independent news source that I turn to for working people, by working people. Elise is helming More Perfect University, which is More Perfect Union's campus program. I'm blown away by this person's brilliance. What I'm left with today that is making me smile is the knowledge that young people are okay. I'm excited for you to listen to this conversation, and I hope you enjoy it. Come on in. It's open. Elise Joshi, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me.
I have been watching content that you've been making about human rights for years. I think since you were 17.
Yeah.
Wow. You give me faith. You help my faith in humanity because I see a younger generation, you, one of the leaders in understanding the system and explaining it to your peers. How'd you come to understand the system so clearly and make messaging about it?
Yeah, it's odd because I grew up in the heart and epicenter of Silicon Valley, where Google is headquartered. My parents don't work in tech, but my dad really instilled a STEM mindset of like, don't just trust what people in power tell you. You have to question authority and prove it yourself. And I came from a STEM background of like, okay, what does the data say? What is the proof here? And when wildfires were coming to the Bay Area, to California, and I had 300 plus AQI outside my door. We're wearing masks in 2017, 2018, and I'm trying to understand it. You look at the data, you look at the science, and it's so much scarier than just the red skies. It's what does it look like at 2 degrees of warming, 3 degrees of warming is frightening. And what we've already seen is just unbelievable. And it freaked me out. But that background of trying to prove everything and not just taking Donald Trump's word for it, who was president at that time, it helped inform me of like, okay, this is so much worse than what people, perceive. And I want to be part of a movement that educates people around climate and other things.
Can I make sure I'm hearing correctly? You're saying that you grew up in the heart of Silicon Valley. Your parents don't work in tech, but there's a big thrust towards STEM in public schools. And your dad said, don't take authority's word for it. Question it and get the proof yourself.
Exactly.
Cover that.
Yeah. And I'm also Ecuadorian and Indian, and on my Ecuadorian side, water is life. Hydropower is 80% of the country. It's a group of people that understand that the economy and nature are intrinsically linked to each other, that you can't separate the two. And in getting closer to my family, who largely live in Ecuador, it also informed me that I have a responsibility here in the United States as an Ecuadorian American to do everything I can to fight for decarbonization and sustain a sustainable economy within the belly of the beast.
And I found it so clearly. I found you to so clearly explain the data, but also how it felt to be living through the experience of it. How'd you find your voice in this way?
It was a lot of trial and error, to be honest. I didn't come from a film background. It took me a long time to realize that even though I cared about politics, I cared about people and our planet, it was hard to imagine somebody who looked like me as somebody who can be a leader within this space. And, it took the Sunrise Movement, took AOC winning her election for me to see myself as somebody who can chart chart this path of building a better future.
Wait, let me slow down there.
Yeah.
The Sunrise Movement rising up.
Yes.
And AOC winning her election.
Yeah,
wow.
2018 was really crucial for me to realize my own strength and that I'm capable of providing something to building a better world. And still, you're on TikTok in 2020, and it's this just dystopian time where I didn't get a high school graduation. I'm staying at home instead of going to college, and your future is looking just so fraught. And I didn't know what the best persuasion tactics were. I just knew what convinced me. And so I would share pretty scary statistics about the climate crisis in hopes of other people seeing how bad things are, the increase in droughts and wildfires and flooding and all these statistics. And I realized, I was going viral, but I'm not persuading people, I'm scaring people. And so I really iterated over time and figured out that hope drives change. It persuades people. It grounds people in why we're in this fight. And it took making errors along the way at 17 and trying to figure out how this works. But basically, hundreds of millions of people were being driven onto the TikTok app in 2020, and it was largely young people making really scrappy, authentic content about what they cared about. And because there was so much demand for content, there was also demand for creators to fill in the gap of we need to fill in these feeds for people who are driving onto the platform. And so, I could make mistakes and still go viral. I think there's certain cringy videos from 6 years ago that wouldn't work now, but I came onto the platform at the right time.
And you were just editing it yourself?
Yes, within the TikTok app.
Yeah. And you would you do something? Would you make a whole video, be like, this sucks, and delete it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I've gone back. I try to keep... I've looked actually quite recently, and I'm like, oh my God, she's so precious. The videos got long pauses. I'm not cutting up things the way that I do now. Yeah, the most crucial part for a young person, I think, watching this, or advice I'd give anyone, is to not be hard on yourself, but be willing to make mistakes and change as a result. You don't have to be perfect, and don't let perfection be the enemy of the good, for sure. I've made plenty of errors, but what's important is that you iterate and you listen to the people around you and try your best.
Yeah. So I've been really excited to start partnering with More Perfect Union. I did a solo episode, and when I got on the call to meet with the team initially, you were there, and I was like, Elise Joshi, oh my God. I was so pleased to see that you had found a home and a team. We'll get to that in a second. What I'm wondering is, from this place of you being so scared, feeling the weight of the world on your shoulders, and finding your voice solo, I'm wanting to step out, you finding the people who are in this work, how you started getting plugged into a system of progress making, because there is a system. Can you talk about how you started finding your people? And we'll get to how you found More Perfect Union.
Yeah. Well, through TikTok, I actually ended up meeting dozens of people who I call my friends now, who were talking about the election as it relates to racial justice, as it relates to worker justice, transit, etc. And we all had the same intention of how can we use content to bring people together around a common goal of we need to get this guy out of office. And we came together to build a coalition of creators that ended up organizing people on TikTok, because the Biden administration didn't want to touch TikTok in 2020. And so no one was using the platform for election purposes.
Oh my God.
And we came together. TikTok for Biden is what it was called. We would then turn into Gen Z for Change, with the purpose of holding the Biden administration accountable, supporting workers on the ground unrelated to elections, and so many other things. And I ended up running Gen Z for Change a couple years after the 2020 election. And yeah, we were a coalition of creators from thousands of miles apart from each other, 500 plus creators across the country. And I found my people on there who have the same intention of how can we use social media effectively. But more than that too, I am a climate organizer, but I'm also a transit, labor, and tenant organizer in the Bay Area. I'm involved in a lot of different community organizing in the Bay where I'm from. And it's really critical to me as somebody who's talking online and building trust with people who live far away from me, that I'm grounded in where I live and fighting for the people who are my neighbors. So I think having both is very important to me. And so, and as both have informed each other. The on the ground work informs my content and vice versa. And, you know, through the years, I've had mentors and friends that help tell me, you know, think that you need to think about things differently in terms of campaign strategy, et cetera. And that's been really helpful.
I myself am starting to feel the need for more. I've done so much political messaging through Generator Collective with my co-founder, Glennis Mahar. And we actually did work together through Gen Z for Change.
Oh, did we?
Yeah. I think we did, you know, some collabs or whatever, but I'm remembering this now, but I'm starting to feel, and I love the messaging part of it because I am a comedian or whatever, but I'm also starting to feel the need like in my belly for the grassroots organizing locally, because it's like, it's hollow without that following up.
It needs to feel real. You know, I one of the most rewarding things that I do is build bus benches at bus stops that don't have benches, and I'm learning how to do woodworking with my neighbors.
You literally build them?
Yes, we literally build them. We sand the wood and paint them and cut them up and assemble them. It's complicated Legos, and we install them literally like drilling holes in the cement and installing bus benches. And we've installed over 100 around Oakland, East Bay in general, and San Francisco. And
holy shit,
it's incredible. And not only that, it's doing a real good in the city I'm from, but by posting it online, we have gotten people in different cities in the country inspired by it. We share our manual online, and now South Austin has a bench project where they're installing community benches at bus stops in their area. And so it's the perfect like digital to on the ground organizing that I know is possible, and wouldn't be possible if I wasn't grounded in the place that I'm from. And so it's that type of work that really keeps me going.
Wow. Oh my gosh. What else? You said transit. Like, what else you do? Like with this, like this level of literally real organizing. Can you give more examples?
Yeah. So I'm involved in transit organizing through the bench organizing, as well as just transit funding in general, right? I mean, I don't own a car, and so it's really critical to me that buses don't take 25 plus minutes to arrive or never arrive. And a lot of young and working people see transportation as really critical to bringing communities together. And so I see as a labor organizer as well, like how can we catalyze chain reactions of organizing by having you're taking your kids to the same school, you're going to the same bar after work. We're living further and further away from our coworkers. And so how can we create and design our communities so that they're closer knit? And I believe that transportation, walkable cities, bikeable cities is how we do that. And it can facilitate better and more effective labor and tenant organizing. And so, they're definitely not separate efforts.
Which is also why, like, the wealthy people wielding all this power don't want transportation to be efficient, because then people get together, get ideas for how to live better.
Public transportation is a threat to big oil, big auto, big everything.
Wow.
And it's one of those crucial things of we need to move from place to place. It's such a fundamental part of being a person. And they have all these big corporations are squeezing us for such a critical need, and that's intentional. And if we make transportation a public service, something, downtown's a place to arrive at instead of drive through. We have, walkable downtowns, accessible transportation that comes every 10 minutes instead of every half an hour, then that really is resistance against these big corporations trying to squeeze us for profit.
Wow. Waymo. So well, let's get to More Perfect Union in a moment, but I learned about Waymo as not a self-driving car, but actually cars being driven by people overseas in the Philippines from More Perfect Union. Huh?
Yeah.
Waymo's being driven by people in the Philippines?
It speaks to a larger problem of trying to push technology as the solution to our problems, as opposed to just good, well-funded public services.
Yeah.
Right?
Well-funded people.
Well-funded
doing
people.
work and living normal,
Yes.
living healthy lives
Yes.
as well. Individuals. Somebody who's a driver to transport customers from place to place should be a well-funded person as well.
Absolutely. And, I'm not a fan of gig services, as, we need to have well-funded public transportation and make sure that gig workers can afford to live in the cities they drive in. And right now that's not the case. So it's not Waymo or gig. It's how do we fix our transportation system so that we can make sure that it's moving people around in the most efficient way possible. A car is still a car, and might be a controversial take, but an electric vehicle is still a car. How can we make sure that we can reduce the mining required for the climate transition, and move the most people around in a city as efficiently as possible? That's a bus, and things are not that complicated. And we don't need to invent something new. We don't need to depend on Silicon Valley in order to fix the problems in our society. We have the solutions in front of us, and we don't have enough politicians that are brave enough to just design a system that works for people and not the people bankrolling their campaigns.
What do you see as the establishment Democrats and the corporate Democrats versus progressive fighters right now? The Republicans, obviously, this is just like really unwell people who are hurting other people, hurt people. That's the Republicans. The Dems are split on these life or death issues, but then there are some progressive fighters rising up in the Democratic Party. What do you see as a Gen Z organizer? What do you see that is, obviously the problem, but also worthwhile in the Democratic Party right now?
Yeah. I like to read a lot, and Walter Rodney has a great quote of, "Fascism is a monster born of capitalist parents." And we're seeing a rise in fascism in this country because of the Trump administration and his allies. And that fascism is at the root caused by a world built for profit and not people and our planet. And if we want to root out fascism, we have to deal with the root of the problem. And again, that's a world for profit. And so what the Democratic Party fails or refuses to do is acknowledge that and champion policies that support everyday people.
Yep.
Whether that's single-payer healthcare, Medicare for all, whether that's reliable and well-funded transportation, whether that's taking on big tech and breaking up big tech. They refuse to do that because, one, these are corporate-backed politicians on the Democratic Party side as well.
Yeah.
And then also, there's just a lack of will to be bold and be a fighter. And so what the progressive champions, whether that be AOC or Summer Lee and other incredible
Let's name more.
Yeah.
Peggy Flanagan.
Yeah. Abdul Al-Sayed in Michigan.
Abdul Al-Sayed, that's right.
Yeah, I mean, there's fighters. There's brawlers for the working class within the Democratic Party because they acknowledge that if we want to take on Trump, we know that the rise of Trump, the rise of MAGA, is born out of working people feeling desperate for change, desperate for a politics that works for everyday people, and they don't know what the answer is, but they need to change something up. And it's not that they idolize Trump. There's certain people that do, but we know that if we can offer a vision that works for them. There's Trump supporters being absolutely screwed over by big tech in rural areas where, their utility bills are skyrocketing. How can we build coalitions with them and offer something new and fresh and bold that speaks to how they're struggling right now? And so there's definitely champions in the Democratic Party that we absolutely need to support, both electorally and the people who are still there, and really focus on that vision piece and not just fighting Trump.
Pausing your regularly scheduled programming to offer you a great discount on a great product. Thank goodness springtime is here. I was losing it, dog, but I'm so happy it's here because when I put my boots back on the shelf, I put on Bombas footwear. Check this out. Oh yeah, it's time for springtime and summer, baby. This is waterproof. This is lightweight. I could toss it. Here's another product. I could toss it in my bag. I could toss them on, walk outside, take a shower at the gym. You know what I'm talking about? Not to brag that I go to the gym. And I'm just loving it. This is Bombas footwear. I thought they just made socks. No, they make footwear too. You know what I also didn't realize they make? Underwear and t-shirts. I'm wearing it right now. It's breathable. It's soft. It's feeling good on my body. Oh, check this out. Yeah, that's nice. That's really, it just feels good. I'm loving it. And something I did not know about Bombas is that for every item you purchase, an essential clothing item is donated to someone facing housing insecurity. One purchased, one donated, with over 150 million donations and counting. Whew, these are high quality products. And to think that I'm buying something and someone who needs this is receiving it as well makes me feel good. So head over to bombas.com/Ilana and use the code Ilana to get 20% off your first purchase. So Bombas is bombas.com/Ilana, ILANA, and then use the code Ilana, ILANA, to get 20% off. See you later. Hi, I am jumping in here with a Ground News segment here, and it's open. So Ground News is an app and a website that gathers articles from all around the world and will tell you where each article leans politically, who owns each outlet, and whether or not you're reading original or recycled reporting. For me, I'm a person who's trying to share reality with others in this moment when our reality is being systematically fractured by like 3 billionaires. So what I want to do is sort and filter left-leaning. Let's see. New York's congressional candidates make a final case in the last day before primary. I see this is from New York, from the Associated Press. The 2026 New York City congressional primaries to watch, all normal. New York's congressional candidates make final case. Okay, great. To me, the New York Times has gotten so right-leaning. So check this out. Mamdani burns allies in making a big bet for Congress and the left. What Mamdani's doing is endorsing candidates who want basic human rights for New Yorkers and their basic needs met. So join me in loving Ground News by going to groundnews.com/open. That's our little special code for you to get 40% off the Vantage plan, which is what I use every day. They are female founded and subscriber funded. So you're partaking in a shared reality by subscribing to Ground News. Oof. So again, that's Ground News, GROUND, like the ground, news, groundnews.com/open for 40% off the Vantage plan. And the link is in the episode description on whatever platform you are watching or listening. Interrupting your regularly scheduled programming to talk about Ben & Jerry's and eat some motherfucking ice cream. Okay, half-baked. Ooh. Okay, so these days, the littlest gets me fully baked. This is a 2-for-1 flavor. Okay, Ben & Jerry's motherfucking invented chocolate chip cookie dough ice cream. Did you know that? This is a fun and very Ashkenazi fact. Ben of Ben & Jerry's has a rare sinus condition. So for him and for me, it's all about those chunks. And then the other half is chocolate fudge. Ooh! The texture, unbeatable, that texture. Whew, that was hot fudge on my tongue. And if you're a fan of chocolate chip cookie dough, like I am, you got to check out these new chocolate chip cookie dough ice cream bars. You know, I love the chocolate chip cookie dough, but there are 5 flavors to choose from. Check it out. You can find Ben & Jerry's at your local grocery store, convenience store, or bodega. And if you're looking for this flavor exactly, go to their flavor finder at benjerry.com. You were talking about Democrats who aren't even creating policy built for working people. Creating policy built for working people. There is a huge range for what it means to be working people, but working people are the majority of Americans not being represented. And this is how I've come I've become so enamored with More Perfect Union and your goal of creating news for working people. How did you come to More Perfect Union?
Yeah, I'm so grateful to be working at a place with such brilliant journalists. I left Gen Z for Change they're all still my friends and I love them, and I just needed something new. And I also wanted to get my hands dirty. When you're executive director, you're doing a lot of operations and budgeting, which I hate. And I wanted to cover the work of frankly my friends across the country that are engaging in rent strikes and labor strikes and fighting data centers, and More Perfect Union was the perfect place for me to do that. And so I was a producer for several months before switching into a new role, but through that time I've been covering such incredible organizing that truly makes me an optimist. Ooh. where these are Kentucky tenants, where the only other organizing happening in these parts of Appalachia besides the tenant union is the KKK. It's them and the KKK. And they're winning. And they're winning not because there's any local, state, or federal law protecting their organizing. Their power is rooted in the collective. And when you know that, and you organize every tenant, no matter who you are, no matter who you voted for, you can win. You can win when your property manager beats you up at the property for organizing. You
literally?
Can win. Yeah, literally. These tenants are the most badass people I've ever met, where there's a lot of people who feel pessimistic right now because they think everything that's happening on the federal level is unprecedented, right? Like, how do we organize when the people in power are oppositional to your efforts? There's examples right now in the South of organizing where they have all the odds stacked up against them and they're winning anyways. And we don't have to look far. We don't even have to look in the past to have examples of how to organize when the conditions are not set up for you. And when you acknowledge that you have power as a collective mass of tenants who want to fix the conditions in their building, who are just tired of the mold, tired of the work, the kitchen sink not working, tired of the skyrocketing rent, and you want to collectively organize against that together against your landlord, you can win. You can. And I've watched it happen. Wow. I've watched tenants, the same tenants who were beaten up at their property by the property manager.
I can't get over this.
Get a collectively bargained lease months later from that same landlord.
Wow.
This is not some benevolent landlord saying, "Hey, good job, guys. It's so cute that you're organizing." No, you don't win by having an oppressor that's benevolent and sympathizes with you.
Right.
You win by forcing their hand.
Woo.
And they did not back down despite threats, despite physical intimidation. And that's just one example of the Kentucky Tenant Union.
Tell me another story that you covered that you loved.
We went to Stark County, Indiana, where that county is the poorest county in the state. And they voted 75% for Trump. And we went to an elementary school where unanimously hundreds of people packed into that room said, "We don't want a data center, an AI data center coming to our town and jacking up our utility bills when we can't afford groceries." And I was a producer. I'm going through the hours of footage and hearing person after person lined up saying, "We don't want Silicon Valley coming into our town and jacking up our utility prices. We don't need, we can't afford to live here. And these people don't have our best intentions in mind." And they won. And they're not even just pushing there wasn't an AI data center coming to their county specifically. They wanted a moratorium. They said no data centers can come here for the next year, at least. But overall, we want to ban. And these are Trump-supporting working people. And when you watch these footage, when we're coordinating, videographers and trying to set up interviews, you're just realizing we are more alike than we are different. And there are very powerful people, the 1%, who know that divide and conquer is how they maintain their power. And we have the playbook, we have the numbers. And if we all realize that we can come together, and if we do, we can make a world that works for the many of us, that's how we end up winning. And I'm an optimist because I know that world is genuinely possible and within our grasp. And I'm very fortunate to work at More Perfect Union to be able to cover these stories and show other people that this is possible.
I'm verklempt. I'm like fully verklempt. and like, this is what your work since you're 17 years old and More Perfect Union, I'm not gonna cry, and More Perfect Union affords me. I mean, it's fucking, and when you said brawlers too in the Democrats, it's like, I'm seeing brawlers, and there's such an intersection at More Perfect Union that you are perfect for, of, on camera, behind the scenes, organizers on the ground. You feel it. You fucking feel it. And now you're organizing a campus program. Is that right? Tell me about it. And what's it called? It's
called More Perfect University. And
More Perfect University.
Yes. Oof. More Perfect Unions, More Perfect University. And
I'm obsessed.
Yeah. It's a program that acknowledges that More Perfect Union has a model that's been working, right? We've been reaching people from rural Kentucky to Indiana to my hometown in the Bay Area, reaching all these different audiences that mainstream media refuses to even cover. Oof. Right? If we didn't cover the organizing that's happening in Kentucky, nobody would have. CNN is not coming to Kentucky to cover these fights, and we're speaking to issues that these people deeply feel. Right? Skyrocketing rent, utility bills hiking because of BlackRock and big tech. The work that we're doing is so important, but it's not rocket science. We can cover, and we should be covering every town that's seeing all of these issues. Right. But we can't. We're limited in capacity, but we can teach people. And we want to open up our newsroom through More Perfect University and teach students in public colleges, community colleges, private colleges, to talk about these issues through an economic populist lens, and cover the issues happening on their campus, but also in their community. And we'll partner with them. We're going to train them, partner with them, support them in telling these stories across the country so that we can build up leaders all over who can speak to these issues that everyday people are facing. And so I'm really excited. That's a really core part. We're also going to have, campus events, and we have a Discord channel where there's so many students that are like talking to each other from all different parts of the country, and that's really exciting. But yeah, it's really an effort to bring students together in all the ways that you can and open up More Perfect Union's newsroom for the first time. J'obsessed. I'm really excited about it.
Incredible. So are you going to actually go to universities and helm the events yourself?
No. So really what's critical here is that I'm not the main character. This is not a Turning Point a replication where I'm debating a bunch of college kids about billionaires shouldn't exist,
Yeah.
But I think it's really important that we build up a lot of different leaders and young leaders across the country who can speak to these issues rather than just build up one person.
How does a college student find More Perfect University and request you to come to their school?
Yeah, so they can pitch an event to us or a story, and we have a Discord that'll help you do that. The Discord's where all of our trainings are going to be too, on how do we make videos that bring people together, and so we'll have a lot more trainings in the future. We just did one, and yeah, through that Discord channel, you can meet a bunch of different students who are really freaking excited about the building a better world. And that's the place that you're going to go to partner with us and pitch us events and stories.
Got it. I don't want to say it like this, but I'm going to say it like this.
Go for it.
There's this problem of young men. I don't mean it like that. I mean, there's a brainwashing machine from the hate mongering machine that really sucks up young men and their minds and tricks them into thinking that if they replicate a certain kind of cruelty that the 1% replicates, that they too can become wealthy and control women and children and people's bodies. But when I'm out in the world and I'm talking to my neighbors and I'm on tour right now doing stand-up, when I see people, it does not feel the way the story is being narrated from the top, from the billionaire-owned media. It feels so much chiller and human and connective than this, I think, systematically dehumanizing and divisive story and algorithm is being shoved down our throats non-consensually, actually. For you, who's working on the ground with young people, specifically college-age people, what's up with young men right now on the ground for real?
I think you're right that mainstream media is painting the divide as red versus blue, when what we're seeing when I'm covering stories up for More Perfect Union and also just in my own life, that it's the 99% versus the 1%. And there's a very explainable reason why corporate media doesn't paint it as 99% versus 1%. It's because they're owned by billionaires. and I, of course, there is an intentional effort by right-wing billionaires to make young men believe that they're in a battle with women, right? That the reason that, you can't get a date or that, women won't, go out with you is because there's something wrong with the women. And, feminism is teaching them whatever. And yet, I believe in young men and in young people in general, in not being disillusioned and being very aware of that effort on the right now. And, young men are oppositional to this war in Iran and going as a continuation of the genocide in Gaza. And, it's very popular among young people to be oppositional to foreign intervention by the United States, to center affordability in our policies and make everyday people's lives better. And they thought that Trump was going to do that for them. And I think it's very problematic that, we knew that Trump was, bought out by his buddies and who are funding his campaign. But, it's clear as day that Trump has ulterior motives for being president. And young men, young people see right through that. And, unfortunately, it wasn't obvious last year or 2 years ago when he was running, but it's very clear now. And it's up to us to bring in disillusioned young men who feel betrayed by Trump to say, we have an alternative for you. And it's not just, hey, doesn't Trump suck? It is another vision. It is something that addresses their needs. And what I really think the root of this is they're lonely. They seek community. We all seek community. We all seek connection. And they need it too. And they've been told how they're going to do that is by congregating with men who hate women. But I believe that we have another option, which is that men, women, people across race and region and religion can come together and build a world that works for all of us, a politics that's not centered on scarcity, but on abundance for all, that we can all have nice things, actually, if we don't prioritize war for big oil.
Whew. Amen, sister. Yeah, that's really heartening to hear. And also, your vision is also rooted in the fact that you are magnetizing, activated, energized, thinking, feeling people, including young men. So you are bringing those people in.
I believe for way too long, the mainstream left, I don't know what that actually means, has prioritized too much on mobilizing the same group of people who are, like myself, like very politically involved and care about, what's going on in Washington and, just driving the same mobilization efforts with the same group of people and not practicing persuasion, right? We are losing people all the time to the right for the last few decades because we haven't been centering working people and working class policies in our agenda. And in in just trying to focus on the same group of people who are activated on these issues and not persuading people who feel these issues every day, the skyrocketing rent, utility bills, accelerating climate crisis, we all are feeling this, but we're not persuading the people who, that have voted red their whole lives and are frustrated and don't feel like they have a political home anymore and need to be told that they belong in this new tent. And I believe that doesn't mean we move right on policies. It means that we say, you belong in this movement, and how can we support you in making your life better? And how us doing a better job in explaining why social housing, single payer healthcare, and public transportation and all these benefit them. And we haven't done a good job at that.
And corporate Dems who used to own the media before right-wing billionaires took it over like 3 fucking years ago, they are not incentivized to do this because they are themselves corporate backed, as you said.
That and they try to poll test everything and focus group everything, and it lacks authenticity. Like, I don't know what Hakeem Jeffries thinks, like, as a person when he goes to bed at night. I don't know what he stands for. I know what AOC stands for. I know what Abdullah Syed stands for. I don't have a doubt that they go to sleep at night thinking, how can I best use my platform to champion everyday people? Yep. Unfortunately, Kamala Harris, it was very unclear what she actually wanted in her policies. And as a young person, it really hurt to see her sidestepping on climate, even though Asheville was absolutely destroyed during the course of the election. It fell during that time. Like, why are we not talking about big oil right now? Why are we right? Mark Cuban is her advisor, and he's telling her, we don't want Lena Khan in the FTC if you win, And so it just felt very unclear with her and with other mainstream Democrats why you are asking to be a leader in this moment. What I keep going back to this, but what do you think about when you go to sleep at night? To me, it's like, how can I just win my next election? Right. Rather than seeing this broader movement and how to facilitate it with the leverage you have.
You were talking about earlier how you got into this game as a young woman feeling the weight of the world on your shoulders, whether this is politically or not. I actually just want to talk about the experience of being a young woman. You seem to feel still like you have the weight of the world on your shoulders, and yet you're also flying. Like, I wonder if you had the chance to say something here in this space to women your age and perhaps a little bit younger, the college demographic that you're reaching out to and organizing around and for, young women who have the weight of the world on their shoulders. What do you say to them to deal with that?
I really, I mean this in the most loving way possible to myself, my younger self, my future self, and other women, that we need everyone, and it's really not about you. And I think the more that you internalize that it's going to take a collective, and all of us leveraging our power as students, community members, tenants, workers to make the world better, then you feel less responsibility and pressure internally, right? One person is not going to change the world. A collective is going to change the world. A mass of people who are intentionally organizing and very disciplined in our strategy is going to change the world. And I really recommend that young people, you want to be doing this when you're the age of Bernie Sanders, right? So that requires you sleeping 8 hours. It requires you being patient and not rushing because you feel like the world demands urgency. It does, but it also demands patience. It requires us to learn from our elders, because we're not in opposition to any single generation. We're only in opposition to the billionaire class. Ooh. And when you know that, when we let go of our ego, we suddenly realize that we don't know everything, and that I need to learn from the 70-year-old person born, raised, and living in Oakland that has so many stories and lessons from organizing within the Panther Party and seeing that rise and fall. That I have stuff to learn from them, that I have stuff to learn from the many books that have lessons of past social movements and how they won and how they lost. I have stuff to learn from the tenant who's in my building as well, that has their own experiences in dealing with life, and they got there different than how I did. And yeah, you have things to learn from everyone. And we have power within ourselves, and a lot of young women of color are told to step aside. They don't know everything. And so it's really important that you have to trust your gut too, and know when you need to listen to that gut instinct that you're right here and you need to push for it. But it also, it does require balancing that with knowing that, you need a community of people to win. And so don't put so much pressure on yourself. And we need you when you're 70 years old. So remember to take care of yourself.
Oh my God, you're so brilliant. It truly makes me almost cry, Elise Joshi. Holy fucking shit.
I'm still learning.
I'm so pleased to meet you. Elise, you give me fuel for my faith in this world and this work. And I hope this is the very beginning of a growing partnership between us and also More Perfect Union.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time today.
Thank
and
you,
your
Ilana.
brilliance. You're a genius.
Oh my God. No, I'm fangirling this entire time.
Oh, Elise Joshi. Thank you, Elise Joshi. And More Perfect Union. Oh my God. Thank you for your collaboration. I hope this is, like I said to Elise, the beginning of so much more. Wow. I feel relieved that you exist and that we exist together in this space. Let's do this. Okay, so this has been a Star Picks production. We are exclusively a human-made production. I want to thank my creative producers in this work, Annika Carlson, David Rooklin, Madeline Kim, Glennis Mahar, and Kelsey Kiley. I want to thank Tova Leibowitz, who is one excellent editor and creative partner. I want to thank Ramo Ventura for his beautiful graphics and art, as well as the opening musical sting. Thank you to the good people who made this episode today look and sound so good. Lexa Krebs, Kevin Deming, Nicole Maupin. And finally, thank you to Don Herr, my brother's band, Elliot Glazer, Jimmy Hines, and Derek Muro for this outro music. Check everybody's work out. And you know what? If you like this show and you dig what I'm doing, like and subscribe and go to ilanaglazer.com to check out where I'm coming at you on tour, as well as to sign up for the newsletter. Fuck all that shit and the power structure. An independent movement is forming, so come join and be a part of it. By the way, it's free. So like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. See you next time. Have a good day.